Alright, I'm going to warm up the stream just for a minute. I don't actually expect anybody will appear, and that's fine. I'm not really doing a Q&A session here as much as I am just going to try and run through my method for colors, or anyone else who wants to make more Super Metroid ROM hacks. You know, all my randos are available on the GitHub. Rando Randy. Like Cliffhanger Redux Rando is just as good an example as any of them. Probably wanted to use this one because it's probably one of the ones that I've worked on the most and am proudest of. Nice that we got it working for AP, though that's kind of just gravy for this particular tutorial. I'm kind of stalling to see if my restream will show up. But anyway, if you download one of these repos, it has some folders in it like ROMs. I basically made this blank folder for ROMs with a ROM README just pointlessly. Because you can't have an empty folder in a GitHub repo, but you can like put a stupid README file in there. So that's all I did. It's just a folder to hold that README file, and then it can also hold on to your ROM when you're running it locally, and it'll do your output ROMs in there. Spoiler files is similar. It's just an empty folder with a stupid README file in it. That doesn't really matter, except that it's a folder that holds onto your spoiler files if you're running it locally. I don't know what this does. It's old data. Okay, so part of the fun is that a lot of this is old data from Subversion. A lot of it is code from Bucks that I never bothered to update or delete. So what I wanted to do is start with the CSV file. So in Cliffhanger, I named it cliff.csv, but you can really name it whatever you want. Colors is actually here. Cool. So you can actually ask questions. I'm doing this tutorial for you, Colors. But first of all, there's a CSV file, which is comma separated values, right? So it looks like a spreadsheet. It has the item name. This matters because this is how the logic file will want to name everything. And that's duplicated over here. I don't remember if that... I know if those are different, it starts breaking things. So you do want those two columns to be the same. Most of these are zeros because they don't matter anymore. But the loc IDs field, this one is the location of whatever your PLM is. So if it's a missile and you want to turn it into a super missile or something, yeah, you would need to come up with your own names for every location. I just started getting bored with naming stuff, so I just started like calling it by the, you know, Missile 7, Missile 8, matching up with the with what's in the ROM. But these matter, the location IDs. These matter, the hiddenness. The randomizer will actually use these to put things either open or chozo or hidden, so you can use the original behavior of the ROM. And then, I wonder if you can see this over here. There's sometimes alternate IDs, sometimes like because of a different room state or something, there's maybe two places where an item is. And so you'll want to have like both versions of the item get changed to be the new item. Since usually one disappears when the other one is collected, so you'll want to catch both of them. Okay, so that's everything on the CSV file. This one's named Cliff CSV because I was using Cliffhanger Redux. How do you get these location IDs? Yeah, that's part of the fun. Is I usually would be able to just like parse for them. But when I traversed the ROM, I did not find any items in the normal way. Search for item, it finds 0. I did use like room 78,000, and it did traverse the ROM, so I think these are all the rooms that exist in the ROM. But it does not find any of the usual type of items. We have all the missiles, PBs, and E-tanks right now, at least, right? No, I didn't find any items. So that's something that would need to be figured out. Once you have the CSV file, the next thing is to go to location data, only because this is holding on to the name of your CSV file here on like line 82. So as long as you name this whatever your CSV file is, yeah, if you want to ask, you can. Now let me go through this. I mean, I already showed you Logic Expert, what this does. This holds on to, you know, some old data for the area rando stuff. But these are all the items that you're going to want to have in your game. There's a bunch of shortcuts you can use to be like, hey, can you crystal flash? Can you use bombs? So you can always use shortcuts to simplify your logic coding writing. And then once you get down here, every name of a location needs to match what's in the CSV file. But then it will be able to find the location accordingly. If I go pick up an item myself while playing the game, can I maybe read what I just picked up? Yeah, Neen wrote a tool for that, and I haven't tried patching the ROM with it yet. But Neen did make a patch that will show you which number item you picked up. I'm really not sure if that will work. But the Logic Expert file is something to consider. I think in the ROM writer Python file, there's a few things that need to be updated based on which game you're doing. Maybe I'm wrong. Nope, I'm wrong. ROM writer, I think, is just fine as is. Whatever you're doing. Maybe it's solver. Let me check if solver needs some. Oh, you do need to have the correct items in the solver. Solver is kind of a misnomer. The randomizer like uses the solver to like double check its work, I think. Or it sort of like uses the solver while it's like randomizing, so solver is sort of a misnomer. But this does also like, I think, write your, it's talking about spheres here. So I think this also is writing your spoiler log. So I think it uses the solver to write your spoiler log, but anyway, I don't think there's anything to update in the solver. There's certain files that hold on to like things that you have to like update. I know there's going to be stuff in main, but I'm not going to mess with that quite yet. Fill assumed. Okay, there is stuff to consider in fill assumed because this holds on to the like how many of each item are going to be in the game. You get one of each for free, so like you get one missile and then 45 more missiles, right? Or you get one super plus 9 more supers, for example. Oh, yeah, so the solver thing is anywhere there's like, you change the items that are in the game. A lot of the Super Metroid ROM hacks use the same item set, so you don't have to update this, but for something like X Fusion, there would be new items that would need to go in this list. And speaking of items going in that list, so yeah, fill assumed is one of the things that will need updating. There's the item data group. Yeah, so like when I was scrubbing through the ROM for like these codes, these are actually just shortcuts that are placed at the normal like item locations. Like, hey, you'll look at a certain like item location and it'll say like, you know, E3EE, meaning, oh, go to the power bomb open subroutine. Or this is a DBEE. So this is always what I'm looking for in scrubbing the ROM. You don't have to change to Zero Super Zero Reserve. You have midnight streaming. Anyway, this needs to hold all of the items that you want to include in your randomizer. Hello, Stroutlog. Colors was saying I should just teach how to do a randomizer. So I'm just doing that really quickly. Okay, then there's main. There's definitely things to do in main. There might be other things to maybe load out. Anywhere where it like holds on to all of the items that are in the game. Okay, yeah, this doesn't need any updating. But we saw like solver is holding on to all the items. So yeah, you need to update that. Anyway, any of the files that are holding on to the full set of items, you want to update them. The last one is main. There's several things to do in the main.py. Let me see if I cannot skip anything important here. Yeah, we just have a default going to logic choice expert, but you could technically have multiple choices for logic if you wanted to. The random seed number. Here it pulls the CSV file. Here's just the default options. Right now it's just doing 10 attempts if the somehow seed doesn't work. Sometimes we have to do more than that. I know there's going to be stuff that needs to change in here. Aha. Well, here's one example. I had this like failsafe in here. Right now it's commented out completable, like solve for the game. Like, I don't think that thing really works anymore. But completable equals true is normally what I do. Just like assume that it's working. But you can like put a little like, wrinkle in here like, well, hey, make sure that morph ball is at morph ball, and then you'll have a completable seed. So you can put here like line 130 in main.py. You can put a completable stipulation in here, like, hey, is morph ball really at morph ball? Otherwise, you can just say completable equals true, and hopefully it works. Okay, so now writing the ROM. So you can see here I have the name of cliffhanger seeds in this. I wrote the little cliff in there. And the clean ROM path is here. In the ROMs folder, you can name what your ROM is. So that is actually hidden in here in main. I think in later versions I made sort of a like helper file that holds on to all of the like specific little things like what's the name of your ROM? What's the name of your ROM? No, that stuff should logically just happen. If you can logically get to all the items you need, then you'll be able to beat the game, right? So anyway, once you get down here, like Awakening, Cliffhanger, Redux patch, these are a bunch of patches that I wrote, and then some of them are like standard like suit animation skip patch from Super Metroid, the remove gravity suit heat protection. Like these are good old patches just to like do randomizer stuff. But you could delete all of this for Xfusion. But there are probably going to be things that will break in the game, and I wouldn't know how to patch them. Yeah, so mainly the things in main are like, what's your completable condition, the name of your ROMs, what's going to be the name of your ROMs. I feel like there's also like a spoiler file naming convention thing in here. I can't find it right now. Spoiler. Oh, okay. So it's just using the ROM name for the spoiler file. So that's fine. It just sort of like derives from that. That's it. I think that's at least 90% of the way of getting to a randomizer. Yeah, those patches are not going to help you. Okay, so that's how you make a randomizer. Now I'm gonna pontificate about the whole about the whole items thing. Now, right now, I think the hardest part is getting hold of the items themselves. From what I have seen, let's talk about items. You know, it would have been handy if Metaquarius had even imported the original missile or like energy tank or anything, but they're not. They're totally rewritten. So like these shortcuts, D, B, E, E, doesn't even go to the missile anymore. And when I traversed the entire ROM, I didn't even find any items. Just to come back to that point, like I traversed the ROM, and this actually looks pretty coherent. Like here's an area 0 room. It has a position that seems logical, and it's a size 1-1 room. All good. There's a door leading to the left that goes to 786D9. Here's that room. It's one space to the left and 2 spaces higher. And it's a size 1-4 room. So yeah, vertical shaft with a door to the right that probably goes into 78,000. Yeah, so this is all very coherent in terms of like traversing the ROM. So like I think that these are all the rooms in the game. And there's, I mean, how many? 355 rooms? Sure, something like that. How many items? 0. So if there were any of the normal PLMs in the ROM, I probably would have found them. So the items, there's the pickup items, kind of like the traditional style. You can like pick up missiles, energy, etc. So like this is sort of like what the good old standard randomizer stuff. Like, hey, you can pick up a missile. Well, just turn that missile into something else, It would be cool if you could just do that. However, it seems like, and you mentioned that, Metaquarius mentioned that there is no like charge beam pickup item anymore because it's not really needed. So the subroutine is probably gone. In some lazy half hacks and stuff where they like take screw tack out of the game or whatever, then like they just left it in lazily. That's fine. Then you just use it. But he said he'll change that in 1.3. So yeah, maybe that will get updated. I mean, another option is to maybe we just need to write them or something. Okay, so the other kind is the like the X. What do they call it? The X blob things. There's like the X blob pickups when you beat a boss. You beat a boss, and then it must have some kind of like. Must have like some kind of set the item bit PLM or whatever, right? So like there's somewhere in there, like we'll go to a certain room, go through all this code, and basically like part of it, I would consult Neen for this to see if he can like parse any of these. But like somewhere in those is gonna be the like, hey, you got the high jump boots or the super jump. Now, one of the nice things about this is that Kai has said the item the Super Metroid tracker tracked successfully, meaning that I assume that the item bits are in the proper place. So like, hey, you got item number 12 or something, and that's like high jump boots or something. then it'll be like, oh yeah, it tracks that correctly. So, you know, that's actually helpful because anyway, if we know like which item bit you're getting, those are probably correct. So we just have to look for those. All right, the other kind is the item stations or something. Sometimes you just have to plug in and get something, like at the whatever they are, the super missiles, level 2. When you get missiles level 2, strong missiles. So I'm guessing this is a PLM also. So just look for the set the item bit PLM in those rooms, and then anyway, as far as I was able to get in the hack, they also act as recharge stations if there's no item. If that's a hint to what they are. Oh, okay. Anyway, so that's my lazy thinking about how this randomizer would have to go. You'd have to, of course, find all the pickup ones. You would want to also include all of the like boss blob pickups, and then also like the item station pickups. And I mean, those could all go into the same pool. And if these are maybe these are handled differently. For randomization. All right, well, anyway. Like I've kind of said, I was not having enough fun with this hack to really get interested in randomizing it myself. But if some other people wanted to, you know, do some of the heavy lifting about figuring out how some of this stuff might work, I'd be willing to do the parts that I know how to do. But basically, my tools kind of ran out of good ideas. Let's see. I came up with the Xfusion 5 traverse. I did a version of traversing the ROM where I looked for any kind of PLM. And once it gets to PLM IDs, PLM 0. No. Anyway, even in a 1x1 room, there's like 12 PLMs in this room. I don't know why. And these do not have very coherent like stats about them. Like, here's one at 0.8. I mean, that might be a door. Yeah, I can send you the text files. But you can see this is the like 78,000 room with one door to the left. But here it is again, but with like all these unknown items. Yeah, if you want to go looking through, without looking for standard item codes, I found 71,000 items. One of the things I would look for is like, hey, does it have PLM ID like number 1? There are 442 items number 1. Like, oh, what about item 2? There's 372 items number 2. I mean, at some other they're not items, right? But this is like PLM ID should be greater than, you mean like this 8300? I think this is flipped. So like decimal 33536. But if it's just an item, wouldn't it just be 0300, meaning 0003? Right. Once you find one true item. Yeah, that's a good point, Colors. Let me see if I can patch my ROM with the with Neen's thing. I am 99% sure it will not work. Okay, Xfusion 1.1. Patch it with let's see, where is that thing? I gotta find this. Oh. Did I have it? Yeah, short message boxes, IPS. Okay. No, wait, not short message boxes. Hold on. Ah. I want the it's probably an Inquisition. Hold on. Hello, Tilly. Thanks for the GO. Did you play Xfusion? Patches. No. HUD item indicator IPS. Okay, there it is. Yeah, I'm gonna play the first part of the game, Tilly, just to get to the first item. It crashed. Okay, never mind. All right, so the the HUD item indicator patch does not work on Xfusion. Hey, it did work on a lot of Super Metroid hacks though. So props to Neen for getting that to work. Yeah, the entire HUD is custom, right? Anyway, there are things. I mean, I guess the way I would have gone about this if I cared was, start looking at this map and figuring out like, hey, what's a room that actually, maybe there's like a 1x1 room that actually has an item in it, and you could like pinpoint it, because usually this is like the XY value in the room. Like this almost looks like a door if it was like 1,6 or something. 4,0 would be like, in the ceiling, so no. 8,0 would be like in the ceiling, so not really. But in a 1x1 room, everything would be like 16 or less, right? So like some of these are not XY values in the room for a PLM. So I think this room would have would really have no working PLMs in it. They're doing something else off screen. That's fine, but whatever. Here, let me look at this room. A 1-4 room. Let me just like spot if any of these would be a PLM that's in the confines of the room. See, this would be 1213. That's in the room. If this is an XY value for a PLM or something. 516. Yeah, there's another one. That's actually in the room. In a 1x4 room, this would have to be 16 or less, and then this would have to be 64 or less. So like this is just outside the room, because it really should be like 63 or less, right? So this is in the room. Seven 5 is in the room. So some of these could potentially be PLMs that you're interacting with. So whatever. Yes, the room is 16 by 16, and the top 2 tiles are hidden by the HUD. So like if you had a 4-0 PLM, it would be inside the HUD. It's the top 2 layers. So like a Y value of 0 would not be visible because it would be too high. But you can see well, depending on a scroll. Sometimes you also can't see the bottom 2 because of the scroll. Yeah, you're right, Colors. Sometimes you can't see the bottom 2 and the top 2. But that's just because of the scrolling. Like if it doesn't scroll vertically, if a room that doesn't scroll vertically, you won't ever see the bottom 2 tiles anyway. But yeah, I'll send you some files. If the room has no scroll at all, then I see 16 by 12. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right. Anyway, I'll send you these text files. See if 4x3 checks out. Well, I mean, you have the HUD. Anyway, that's my tutorial. I'm surprised I have this many viewers for not even playing a game. But I'm gonna go.